My name's Suzanne Pritchard. I'm involved with the Coal Point Progress Association. I've been their president since 1995. We're a not-for-profit community group. The Threatened Species Last Stand on the Coal Point Peninsula project was funded by the Environmental Trust's Community Bush Regeneration Large Project Stream. And the objectives of that project were to improve the ecological connectivity within and between the areas, regenerate degraded natural areas, improve the ongoing health and resilience for threatened ecosystems and flora and fauna, and improve the capacity of the group by resourcing the group and also strengthening the local community organisation. I'm very pleased to say we ticked all of those objectives on the boxes. The $250,000 grant, it exceeded $151,000 of cash and direct in-kind contributions. Volunteers provided 29,700 hours of labour, conservatively valued at $891,000, and that put the community input into the project to over $1 million. And the first lesson we learnt was how to track dollars and hours. So Coal Point Peninsula, it's we can do this on. We're here in Brisbane. Sydney's down here. We're 230 kilometres north of Sydney, in the beautiful city of Lake Macquarie, and we're on a peninsula that still has connectivity to the Wadigan Mountains. The Progress Association Hall is located on the tip of the peninsula. It was built in 1951 by the founding members. That long history in the community embedded the organisation well and truly within the local fabric, and that gave us a really strong foundation for connecting the community to the one thing that we all had in common, which was our local environment. So we started land caring in 1995, and our original mission was to look after the public reserves. Land care in Lake Macquarie is supported by the council. There's over 300 groups now, but our group is incorporated, and so we could independently apply for funding, which we did. And throughout the project, we received some really lovely awards, Community Group of the Year and the Peabody Award, which came with $2,500, which is very nice when you have to fund the maintenance of your community hall. The first step in the project was to actually work out what we knew on the ground before we did any on-ground work. We knew we had high-level resilience on the site because we've been land carrying it for 20 years. We knew there'd been some sightings of squirrel gliders down here at the tip of the point. A ground truth survey told us that we had 3 times the number of hollows on the peninsula than the city average. That was probably why we still had some squirrel gliders floating around. And we also knew that there was this mosaic of public-private land all through the peninsula, and that was being compromised by fragmentation and the populations were at risk of isolation. The large bushland blocks were being turned into small backyard houses, and that was a real risk for our threatened species. We also found out that council had this lovely corridor map, and our job really was to try and connect these dots and improve the connectivity. So the grant allowed us, it was a dream project. We put everything that we really wanted to do into it, and it allowed us to work with the private landholders. We did achieve some really great connections on the ground. This little link here, whilst not particularly significant, has one of the highest species diversities of any of the bushland reserves. That was extended into the land care portfolio. There's an acquisition zone that runs through the peninsula, and people can request council to purchase their backyards off them, basically. And 6 to 8 of those properties were purchased throughout the project. The Progress Association also sold its backyard back, which was 675 square metres, and so the reserve was expanded. We also engaged Hunter Water, who has a water tank up here, a water reservoir, and they actually undertook bush regeneration on their land for the first time, and they funded $6,000 of bush regen. But one of the real achievements was that the community also got involved whenever the corridor was threatened, and we would request people put in submissions on development applications And in 2 DAs, over hundreds of objections were put in, really raising the bar on what the community deemed was acceptable. We also needed to know what threatened species were on the peninsula, and this map of 2013, really people hadn't really looked very much about what was out there, but throughout the project we formally identified the presence of Tetratheca juncia, a locally threatened species, flower, this one down here. We identified squirrel gliders, the powerful owls moved in, and we had some bird surveys done. So we actually confirmed the presence of these threatened species, and that once again that really supported any of the objections we had to developments that compromised the integrity of the bushland corridor. The surveying was undertaken by a variety of ways. We had skilled up high school students who recorded over 200 clumps of Tetratheca juncia. It hadn't been recorded at all on the peninsula prior to the project. We had formal bird surveys undertaken. Tom Clark here did 21 seasonal surveys, and when the project finished it was handed over to 2 local volunteers who are now surveying monthly. We also did some formal surveying. We had experts help us set up quadrats and transects in the reserves that weren't big enough, and we provided training opportunities every year to go back over the plots and record the species diversity and the coverage. And that gave us some nice quantitative data, some beautiful species lists that went on to be used in a lot of the education products. One of the other surveys we did a spotlighting survey, and on the first spotlighting night, 50 metres down the track, we saw our first, we had our first squirrel glider identified, which was really wonderful news because they were in an area down here where we didn't actually know they existed. Previously they'd only been sighted up here. And it really changed our way of trying to engage with the community. We'd been trying to get local landholders involved. We had land caring sessions in specific areas for them. We were trying discovery walks, treasure hunts to try and get the kids involved, to get the parents involved. And whilst we were attracting people from outside the area, we weren't getting any landholders, local landholders in. So the squirrel glider became our way of connecting the community with the corridor. We offered to install nest boxes on people's private property as well as on public land. The local men's shed built 30 nest boxes for us, and 16 went up in the public reserves and 14 went on private property, and we surveyed them annually. 4 of the boxes had been used and had had 1 to 6 squirrel gliders in them. And about the same time, the powerful owl moved in, which was really lovely. Once again, we've got some amazing hollows. This one is on hunter water land, and it has a really great photo op. So the people who find out about it first are usually the hunter bird observers, and they come out with their cameras. And we have a local wildlife carer who also monitors it. So they let us know when the powerful owl comes about, and then we share the news. So we have a community newsletter that gets hand-delivered to 1,600 residents into their letterbox every month, and it goes online as well in the form of a blog, and we have a Facebook page as well. The value of keeping the community engaged regularly, sharing all of the activities that are available, has really been one of the reasons why I think that one of the reasons why the project has been really successful. So we've had over 15,000 hours of land care and bush regen, and another 2,000 of contract hours. We have a land care team that's 8 to 12 strong that meet every Thursday. A real game changer in the project was using the bush regen contract dollars to support a bush regen trainer that came out with a busload of volunteers and helped us to work on site. That really provided an incentive, not an incentive, but real support for the group that had been working for 15 years previously. And we got some really good outcomes. Some garden escape patches, and they look like they're a weedy mess. We've got still some work to do. We have a lovely EEC, or there are wetlands that has 3 EECs in it that's on a real recovery trajectory. Thanks to some great combinations of works, contract bushland generators came in and did a primary weed. The land carer group followed up regularly. We had 3 National Tree Day plantings on site. It was a really high profile site. And this lady here, Diane, she works 2 hours every day maintaining the reserve. If you don't have a Diane, you can always burn it. That was another really good outcome that wasn't planned at the beginning of the project, but produced some really amazing results, transforming what was an asparagus fern carpet into a real biodiverse bushland with a great structure. We've got a shrub lane now that never really existed. And through all of this, we've been trying to share at every opportunity. We had spotlighting events, bus tours, field days where we demonstrated various techniques. We've engaged TAFE students. We've had 125 events over the 6 years and 4,100 attendees. We've also been supporting the youth in the area. The local school, we've turned a fishbone fernery into a squirrel glider food forest. We've supported the local preschool with annual visits, and we've created an event kit, which is basically every bird or stuffed toy that we could find of the local animals, and some cards to match. It's just a matching thing, but really well received. The project sort of went, the last year was pretty intense. We hosted Questicon's travelling Earth Quest exhibition at the hall, and with that did an observational trail. We had 650 people go through the exhibition and the trail over the week, and that was a real insight into the need to have just localised localised environmental ed that people could relate to and just explore the local bushland in a relatively safe and supervised fashion. The other major project was, this is the Hunter Water Reservoir, and this is a mural. It's 170 square metres worth, and it went around the whole tank. The primary school got involved, the high school got involved, and we had an art and crafts show to celebrate the end of the project, but also started one, and we offered up a $1,000 threatened species award for the, and that got threatened species more represented in the art and crafts show. So we've got some legacy communication items. We made posters and booklets, banners and guides to how to support local landholders with identifying and learning how to look after their bushland, treat the weeds, and all of these resources are all available on the website. We had 341 educational items throughout the project, and it sort of culminated with the Bonza Bushland Gardening Guide, which just outlined the main weed threats. It was like a grow me instead guide as well, and allowed us to celebrate the art that had also been created. This is the mural in the background. These are the art from the art and craft show. So the big lessons that we learnt throughout the project, well, basically asking you shall receive. People want to help, and often it's just a matter of asking, and that was a big lesson. Sharing the load was another really good one. Don't be afraid to take on something really big. The mural and the Science Week event, they generated an extra $20,000 of community grants and support just to make them happen. And knowing where you're starting is a really good lesson. But for our group, it's just been a fantastic way to find out what we had, learn how to manage it, and then get the community involved. And there's probably another grant following that up. Yeah, thank you.